Good morning to everybody. Dobré ráno všetkým. Welcome to the session number 9. And let me open our program. I hope that all of you will have a picture on our program. Okay, so once again, welcome in the session number 9, which is co-organized by the Association of Agricultural Economists in Slovakia. And topic of our session is agricultural markets and institutions. And altogether, we have 7 contributions, 6 contributions are domestic, and 1 contribution came from the University of Žilina. Unfortunately, I have not registered our contributors from Žilina, and I have no information about them. According to our program, we will start with the second contribution. It's a contribution by Emmanuel, Bangmarigu, Bieleková, and Artan Qineti, and it is on the topic Determinants of ECOWAS cocoa export, the gravity model approach. The speaker is Emmanuel Bangmarigu. This presentation has been pre-cooked, pre-prepared as a video presentation, and so I will run it from my computer. And as far as the organization of our session, I propose that we have saved some time, that after each presentation we will have a space for questions and discussions. And now let me try to open and stream the first video. Ano?
Nejde zvuk vůbec.
Aha. Prepáčte mi, nezapol som systémový zvuk, takže ešte raz to spustím.
Good morning to you all. My name is Bangmarigu Emmanuel, a final year PhD candidate at the Slovak University of Agriculture in Nitra, Faculty of Economics and Management, Department of Economic Policy. I am here today to present to you our research findings on the topic Determinants of ECOWAS cocoa export, the gravity model approach. This paper was written together with Eva Bieleková and my dissertation supervisor, Professor Artan Qineti. Okay, so the paper is structured as follows. Introduction, which is the literature review, objectives, materials and methods, data, results, and conclusions. On the part of introduction, we looked at the performance of the sector and got the understanding that cocoa is an important source of export revenue and income for smallholder farmers in those countries. This is documented by World Bank in 2012. According to Connect 2018, Africa is far more dependent on international trade with EU and North America handling 63% and 40% of trade flow. Sidwell and Teremi 2016 asserted that Brexit could weaken trade between both UK and EU on Africa. On the contrary, Lagarde 2018 emphasized that global trade war of the US weigh more heavily than Brexit. Due to Africa's low share in global trade, some researchers have thought of regional trade agreement as vehicle for promoting trade. However, others argue about it due to inter-African barriers and incentive for corruption at border posts. Objectives. The objective of this paper is to examine the main determinants of cocoa export in the ECOWAS sub-region in light of current global economic tendencies. The gravity model was used extensively in this area. This paper uses the conventional gravity variables and a wide range of other factors, such as foreign trade policy index, free trade area, Trump, and Brexit to identify key determinants of cocoa export in the ECOWAS sub-region. Materials and methodology. Our estimation was carried out using two methods. First, we take the natural logarithm of continuous variables and estimate the log linear model 2 by ordinary least square technique. Secondly, we employ the Poisson pseudo maximum likelihood estimator. The estimated gravity model takes the following specification, which is specified as below, where the variables are also specified below. Data. We collected data for the period 1994 to 2018 and identified our dependent variables as annual value of cocoa export of Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Nigeria, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Togo to EU and the USA. Independent variables were identified as cocoa production, population, GDP, and distance. Dummy variables were Brexit and Trump policy directions. Data source was from UN Comtrade, World Bank, FOSTAT, World Heritage Foundation, and WTO. Results. Our results reveal that world cocoa production increased more than threefold since 1960. That is from 1.2 to over 4 million tons, averaging yearly growth of more than 2.60%. West Africa, the world leader producer, produces about 99% of African cocoa and 60% of world cocoa in 2017. Africa is by far the major cocoa exporter in the world. Our estimated results reveal that model passed the preset test PPML2 and 3. Our explanatory variable explained that 91% of variability in cocoa bean export. There is also that cocoa bean export is positively influenced by GDP of the exporter country. That is 1% increase in exporter GDP caused export to grow by 2.9%. We also found higher trade openness of exporter country, leading to higher export of cocoa beans. That is 1% increase in exporter foreign trade policy index increases the cocoa bean export by 0.8%. On the other hand, the lesser the importer, which is USA and EU, foreign trade policy index, when trade with EU and US is characterized by greater trade barriers, then the lesser export is carried out to EU and the USA. The effect of free trade agreement is positive in case of PPML3 models. Specifically, countries with signed free trade area tends to trade 21% more than countries that did not sign free trade area agreements. So the result is consistent in case of the second, that is PPML2 model, where the variables is statistically insignificant. So the negative and statistically significant coefficient of distance variable indicate that cocoa bean export falls with greater distance between exporter and importer countries. That is a 10% increase in distance lowers the cocoa trade or export by 10.4%. We did not find fairly significant influence of the amount of cocoa bean production in exporter countries. So the changes in cocoa bean production in selected African countries did not affect its export in the selected time period. During this period, neither the size of importer countries, nor importer countries regarding the number of its population, nor the importer's GDP had significant impact, which can mean that cocoa bean export to USA and EU and consumer preferences were very stable. The influence of Brexit preparations and Trump policy decisions could not have been estimated in a good specified model PPML2 and 3 because of multi-collinearity with fixed effects issues. So the results are presented on this table. That is the results of our estimations. In conclusion, the paper employs a gravity model approach to analyze mean determinants of cocoa export in the ECOWAS sub-region. Main conclusions are drawn from the fact that the model explains 91% variability in cocoa bean export. Cocoa bean export is positively influenced by GDP of the exporter countries, but not of the importer country. Higher trade openness of ECOWAS member countries leads to higher export of cocoa beans. That is 1% increase in exporter foreign trade policy index increases the cocoa bean trade by 0.8%. On the other hand, the lesser the importer foreign trade policy index is when the trade is with EU and USA is characterized by greater trade barriers. The lesser import is carried out to the EU and USA. The effect of free trade agreement was positive for countries with signed free trade area agreements, which increases trade by 21% more than otherwise, more than countries that did not sign the agreement. The negative and statistically significant coefficient of distance variable indicates that cocoa bean export falls with greater distance between exporter and importer countries. So it means that if trade between closer countries is possible, then it means that trade would increase. That means that the more the countries are close together, the higher the trade is. We did not find any statistically significant influence of amount of cocoa bean production in exporter countries. So the changes in cocoa bean production in selected countries did not affect its export in the selected period. Neither the size of import country population nor the importer GDP had a statistically significant impact, which can mean that cocoa bean export to USA and EU and consumer preference were relatively stable. Lastly, the influence of Brexit preparations and Trump policy decisions did not have any significant impact. Thank you for your attention, questions, suggestions, and remarks.
Professor Fandel?
Hello? Can I speak now?
Emmanuel, wait for the moderator. Professor Fandel, I think, will moderate.
Sorry, there is one question in chat. Maybe you can answer meanwhile that one.
Emma, we have to wait because the scenario is there are the presentations and at the end of the session is the discussion.
Ah, okay, thanks.
Because also Yevgen, I see he made a question in chat.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean.
Peter? I may even continue with the next presentation because I am next in the line, but
okay, now excuse me, I didn't switch my microphone, and I was talking to you. Excuse me, my mistakes. It's first time I'm moderating Teams. So there are two questions, and first question was asked by Yevhen Kononets. Do you hear me, Yevhen?
Yes, I can hear you.
So please ask the question.
Okay, so thank you.
No, Emmanuel, this is
Yes?
about Yevgen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you, panelists and audience. My name is Emmanuel. Regarding the question Yevgen asked, maybe I can read it. Please say, how do you recognize or classify in Ghana how big cocoa farms are? Largely, cocoa farms are small-scaled, that are mined by small-scale farmers. And farms ranges between 2 hectares to 4 hectares. Yeah, and averagely is around per hectare is around 5 tons of cocoa.
Okay, so the next question, Artan.
I haven't seen the next question.
I haven't seen it either.
But as Artan, you have wrote, so next line is me. So I understood
Yes,
that you wanted to raise a question.
No. I wanted to ask if it's my presentation next, because it was silence and I was not sure.
Yes, you are right. If there are no other questions, let me ask one question, Emmanuel.
Yes.
How did you measure Brexit and Trump policy impact?
Okay, we took Trump and Brexit policy as dummy variables. So we took the year when Brexit Brits voted out of EU, and then the year Trump ascended to the White House, and we took 2016 for 0 and otherwise as dummy variables. You know, so we had these multi-collinearity issues simply because our data was not sufficient enough to be able to enable us see the effect of it.
Okay, thank you very much. So dummy variable was
dummy variable, exactly.
Okay. So now let's move to the next presentation, and then let me switch to Artan Qineti as a presenter. And Artan, you can use your file to present it to the team. Floor is yours.
The file is not there, right? Because
if you wish, I can open your file.
Yeah, if possible, because I'm not also used with this system. I can communicate, but I don't know how it is used properly. But if you have it, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so I must switch you back to the attendee, and I will open your file. And it's possible to switch control to you, even I
apologize for the inconvenience. Okay. I expected it to be like this, but anyway.
Okay.
Actually, Emmanuel even recorded this presentation, but yeah.
Okay. Now, do you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Do you still see the presentation?
Not now.
Not now.
Or let me check because I have it downloaded. Yeah. Now it's fine.
Give a control, Artan Qineti.
Yes.
Is requesting control allow. Okay. Now you will have a control over the file.
So I can move with it, right?
So, good. Artan,
yes,
floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. And once again, apologize for the inconvenience. We all test these new possibilities by the technology and given the circumstances. So the topic of my presentation is who participated in the block farm scheme in Ghana. It is also written in co-authorship with my PhD student, Emmanuel Bangmarigu, and our colleague, Emma Lazorčáková. It is an interesting topic because the data has been collected directly in Ghana, the home country of Emmanuel. Actually, what was the main motivation? Actually, the agriculture sector is the backbone. Oops. Wait a minute. Somehow it doesn't go on, but I will go on with my presentations anyway. So the agriculture sector is the backbone of the Ghanaian economy, but the contribution of this sector has dwindled in the recent times. There are several sectors, from misguided economic policies to climatic conditions like rain-fed, because for example, previous studies report that a 10% decline in the amount of rainfall below the long-term average leads to a 4.4% reduction in agriculture food productivities. There are other factors as well, like low income of farmers, high household size, poor harvest, and so on. To support agriculture production and food security mainly, the Ghana government actually has initiated an aggressive agriculture policy reform since 2009, and block farm schemes is one of the most important elements of this policy. So the objectives of this paper actually have been one, to identify the determinants that influence farmers' participation in the block farm scheme program, and second, to investigate how these determinants influence the probability that a farm joins the program. What is this block farm concept? Actually, the notion is to bring several farmers on a large tract on a single piece of land or blocks for the production of selected commodities in which regions, communities have comparative advantage. And the objective of this program is to increase food security and other objectives as well. It has been piloted in 6 regions of Ghana in 2009, and later it was spread through all the country by 2010. Potential beneficiaries of this scheme during the pilot phase were initially identified following a campaign on awareness of the scheme and registration of interested participants. The 2 main factors that were considered under these schemes are suitability of the crop and comparative advantage on the chosen crop. Now to the materials and method. A study area has been conducted in Yama, the West Mamprusi district of the northeast region of Ghana. Here, agriculture is the main source of livelihood. Yama was chosen due to vulnerability to serious food insecure challenges. Regarding data and sampling, it has been used as structured questionnaire, and data were collected in July 2018. A multi-stage sampling technique was employed to select the respondents. In the first stage, a purposive sampling was used to select 1 village. And in the second stage, proportionate random sampling technique was applied to select the 3 groups from the list obtained from the district office of the Ministry of Agriculture. We had 62 respondents, 26 participating in the scheme, 36 not participating from the Yama community. The methodology, a cumulative logistic probability function was adopted and specified, where explained variable was the probability of participating in the program, X was the vector of explanatory variables for the farmer, and beta was the vector of coefficients to be estimated. Among explanatory variables were farmer's sex, age, marital status, education, farmer's family size, farm size, agriculture revenue, number of crops cultivated by the farm, yield of individual crops, or area for individual crops, all related to 2008 before the scheme has been launched. Also, the characteristics analyzed were guided by previous empirical literature. What were the results? Actually, 44 of the respondents from the sample were participating. According to the results, farmers' education, family size, the size of farm, agriculture revenue, and the number of crops cultivated in the farm influenced the participation in block farming program. 48% of respondents did not have education, while 52% had at least primary education. Mean family size of the sample was 6.97. The average size of the land was around 5 hectares, and the mean revenue was around 1,300 Ghana cedis per year. Also, an average variety of 2.81 crops were cultivated. The structure of production was mainly rice, maize, soybean, cowpea, and okra. So, based on the results, while the education, family size, agriculture revenue, and number of crops were found to be positively related to the scheme, farm size was found to be negatively related to the participation in the program. The expected difference in the probability of participating is associated with higher education, ceteris paribus, of course, where 35% of the farmers were highly educated. Farms with more family members were 12% more likely to participate. The probability of participation increases by 2% with farms with revenues higher than 100 Ghana cedis. If the farm cultivates more crops, 60% more likely to participate. Also, it is interesting that the difference in probability of participating is associated with 1 more hectare of farm in a negative term, so it decreases by 25%. Out of 62 farmers, 26 actually participated, and the model correctly classifies 21st cases. In the opposite, 36 did not participate, and the model predicted 31%. So the model correctly classified 83% of the cases. We can conclude that actually out of the samples, more than half of it had a higher education from primary to university. They are more likely to participate, they are more aware, they are more capable of receiving, processing, and understanding information that comes out regarding technology or program. Also, large families are likely to participate in the program. They can easily participate in the project because of labor division, better knowledge, and information spreading. Unfortunately, the results do not confirm a correlation between more land and participation in the program. They rather show that when you have a bigger farm there, it decreases the likelihood of participating in the project. On the other hand, higher variety of crops, also higher agriculture revenues, motivates the farmer to participate in the analyzed scheme. Last but not the least, given some indications for we have given some indications actually for policymakers that might make this scheme more attractive. For example, this scheme might include extension services in combination with elements of education, also tailored or adjusted with specific attributes for big families and smaller farms without discriminating for income groups. It is very important because such programs, as we said, they contribute to reduction of food insecurity in generally in less developed countries, which Africa has plenty, and where many different strategies by respective government have been employed to increase food production, and in this way the block farming scheme that we have analyzed is an interesting and useful instrument to be implemented in many of these countries. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Artan.
I apologize again for the presentation.
It seems to me that you have lost control over the presentation because even my point frozen, so I could use just keys, arrow keys, not my cursor.
Yeah, I couldn't manipulate with it, so once again I apologize.
So we learn how to work with these technologies. Okay, so thank you very much for your presentation. And now I would like to open discussion if there are any questions. I should inform you that I lost control over the team with my mouse. Maybe Artan, can you return control over or could you close your presentation?
I can stop the control, for example, just a minute.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, now, you return to me control over the teams. Thank you very much. Okay. Any questions? Let me check messages. If there is any queue of questions. Yes. No.
This is from the other room, I think.
Yes, it is from the other group. I hope that you see our program.
Mm-hmm.
So the next paper has been submitted by Katarína Baráthová, Jan Pokrivčák, Miroslava Rajčániová, and Artan Qineti. And speaker is Katarína Baráthová. Do you hear me, Katarína?
Yes, hello everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So you have pre-recorded a video. Do you want me to stream it?
Yes, you can do it.
Excuse me, it takes some time. And first I need to open. Okay, do you see the video? Katarína?
Yes, I see.
Okay, so let's start. Ano?
Good morning, my name is Katarína Baráthová. I'm a PhD student at the Department of Economic Policy, and today I'm going to present the article about unfair trading practices in the Slovak fruit sector, which was prepared in the cooperation with my colleagues at the department. The topic of unfair trading practices in the agricultural sector has been on the European agenda since 2009. The European Commission defines this issue as practices that grossly differ from good commercial conduct, are contrary to good faith, and are imposed unilaterally by one trading partner on another. Fight against unfair trading practices was also the main priority of Slovakia during the Slovak presidency in the Council of the EU in 2016. But in recent years, also other EU member states started to call for the EU-wide solution of this issue. In 2019, this effort finally resulted into the adoption of the new European directive, which banned the list of 16 unfair trading practices in business-to-business relationships in the agricultural and food supply chain. But despite the seriousness of this topic, the empirical
Excuse me, but I'm doing everything correctly, and I don't know what is the reason you do not see the picture. So I should try once again. Excuse me. Please.
Now it was okay. Now it was okay.
Yes, it was okay.
Yes.
But Lubica called me by phone that only sound is available.
Aha.
So did you see both?
Perfectly. It was very well. The voice and
Me too.
Everything was fine.
And me too.
Ja som počula len zvuk, žiadny obraz.
Okay, so once again, excuse me.
Good morning, my name is Katarína Baráthová. I'm a PhD student at the Department of Economic Policy, and today I'm going to present the article about unfair trading practices in the Slovak fruit sector, which was prepared in the cooperation with my colleagues at the department. The topic of unfair trading practices in the agricultural sector has been on the European agenda since 2009. The European Commission defines this issue as practices that grossly differ from good commercial conduct, are contrary to good faith, and are imposed unilaterally by one trading partner on another. Fight against unfair trading practices was also the main priority of Slovakia during the Slovak presidency in the Council of the EU in 2016, but in recent years also other EU member states started to call for the EU-wide solution of this issue. In 2019, this effort finally resulted into the adoption of the new European directive, which banned the list of 16 unfair trading practices in business-to-business relationships in the agricultural and food supply chain. But despite the seriousness of this topic, the empirical research is still quite limited. Therefore, given the new directive, the main objective of this paper was to investigate the occurrence of UTPs in the fruit supply chain in Slovakia, but compared to other existing research papers which focus in majority of cases only on one stage of the fruit supply chain, we decided to apply a different approach, and we conducted a series of free questionnaire surveys at all levels of the Slovak fruit supply chain, at the farmer, middleman and supermarket level. Statistical tests which were used in the data analysis were Kruskal-Wallis test and independent samples t-test. So first of all, let me start with the results from the farm questionnaire. The final sample size consists of 66 fruit growers. This sample is representative in terms of orchard size, and the questionnaire was focused on the evaluation of the relationship of farmers with their main buyer and on the occurrence of 16 unfair trading practices from the new directive. Therefore, the table 2 provides information about the type of the main buyer. So as it might be seen, for 27% of farmers, the main buyer is private trader. For 26%, it is producer organization. For less than 11%, it is retailers. And for 17%, it is different type of the main buyer, usually baby food producer, distillery or juice producer. And it is also important to say that for almost 20% of the farmers, the main buyer, and actually the only buyer, is the final consumer. And in these relationships, farmers actually don't encounter unfair trading practices. The occurrence of UTPs at the farm level was investigated with regards to the new directive. Farmers were asked how likely is a certain practice to occur in the relationship with their main buyer, and how they perceive the certain UTP. So the table 3 provides information about the share of farmers who reported that certain UTP occurred at least sometimes, and the percentage of farmers who reported that they consider this practice as unfair or totally unfair. So as we may see, the most frequent and the most serious are late payments, short notice cancellation of orders, unilateral changes in contracts and single orders, and payments not related to a specific transaction, and also payments for wasted products and losses. In case of each UTP, differences were tested according to the type of the main buyer with Kruskal-Wallis test. For example, in case of late payments, this practice was reported mainly by farmers who trade with supermarkets and private traders. And majority of those who trade with producer organization actually reported that producer organization is almost never late with the payments. These differences were confirmed as statistically significant. Similarly, in case of unilateral single and contract changes, differences were confirmed as statistically significant, and these issues were reported mainly by farmers trading with supermarkets and private traders, and unilateral changes referred mainly to changes in prices and changes in quality. In case of other black unfair trading practices, the occurrence is much smaller. And for example, in case of misuse of trade secrets by the buyer, many farmers reported that this practice is not relevant for the fruit sector. Similarly, we asked farmers about the occurrence of so-called grey unfair trading practices, which are practices that are actually allowed in case they are clearly and unambiguously agreed between the supplier and the buyer. As results show, in majority of cases, these payments or these unfair trading practices are actually either not in place, or when they are in place, they are agreed between the trading partners in clear manner. The only exception is the return or buyback of unsold products, which was reported by 26% of farmers as ambiguous or unclear practice in the contract. So overall, 64% of farmers reported that they encountered at least one unfair trading practice in the relationship with their main buyer. We also compared the number of UTPs occurred in the relationship with the main buyer according to the membership in producer organizations. We also wanted to see whether the difference between these two groups is statistically significant. So we decided to verify it by independent samples t-test, and the results confirmed that the difference between the two groups is statistically significant, and members of producer organizations experienced on average a lower number of unfair trading practices, which is very important policy implication. The next questionnaire was conducted at the middleman level. The final sample size consists of 15 middleman firms, majority of which were incorporated businesses, but 20% of them were also producer organizations, and the questionnaire was focused mainly on the perception of these firms about the UTP occurrence in the fruit sector rather than on their own business. Because of the general reluctance of middlemen firms to take part in this service. So the following table provides information about perception of middlemen, about UTP's occurrence in the relationship between middlemen and suppliers, which is the relationship middlemen and farmers, and then in the relationship between middlemen and their buyers. And as we may see, the most important are late payments, cancellation of orders or short notice, unilateral changes in existing contracts, also payments for losses and waste, and from grey UTPs, it is again return or buyback of unsold products. We might see that the occurrence actually coincides with the results from the farm survey, and occurrence is even higher than at the farm level, but it is mainly caused by the fact that the sample size in this survey was much smaller, so the results need to be interpreted with caution. The last questionnaire was conducted at the supermarket level. The final sample size consists of 6 supermarkets, but supermarkets were contacted on the central level. So one questionnaire represents the answer for one supermarket chain. And similarly, as in case of middlemen, the survey was focused more on general overview and the perception of representatives from supermarkets in the fruit sector. As it was expected, the respondents was not very willing to admit the occurrence of UTPs, but there is a small evidence of late payments, cancellation of orders on short notice, unilateral changes in contracts, and payments for loss and waste of the products. And again, these results are in line with the results from farm and middleman questionnaires. So just to conclude, the UTP occurrence is quite serious issue also for the fruit sector in Slovakia. And actually it might be one of the reasons behind the negative development in the sector in the last years. There is a statistically significant difference between members and non-members of producer organization in number of UTPs they experienced. So this is important policy implication because producer organization might play an important role in the fight with the unfair trading practices, which was also implied by other existing research papers. And also our survey confirmed that UTPs are transmitted from the one stage of food supply chain to the another one, because the occurrence of UTPs at each stage of fruit supply chain was very similar. And also our survey confirmed the importance of sectorial approach because not all practices which are included in the new directive might be relevant for all the sectors of the economy, but the new directive allows member states to expand this list when they need to address specific practices. And adoption of the new directive doesn't mean that the fight against UTPs is at the end, but what is important now is that member states need to build a credible enforcement institution, which is a prerequisite for the start of the effective fight against the unfair trading practices. So that's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, so the video is over. Let me check if Katarína is available. Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so now let me open discussion if there are any questions. Let me check in the chat sector. Yes, there is a question from Yevhen Kononets. Yevhen, do you want to raise the question, or am I to read the question? Katarína, could you please precise who did the survey?
Yes, it was actually me. At the Department of Economic Policy, we did this survey within one project, which aim was to cover the whole food supply chain in the fruit sector. So we at the Department of Economic Policy were covering the whole survey. And I made the interviews with the farmers, with the representatives from supermarkets, and also from the middleman level. The majority of questionnaires at the farmer level were collected through personal interviews, and in case of middleman and supermarket, the questionnaires were collected through online questionnaire.
Thank you. One group of your respondees was the group of or representatives of producers organizations. How many did you have in your sample?
There were 3 producer organizations. In Slovakia, there are only 2 producer organizations in the fruit sector, but there are also 3 another producer organizations in the vegetable sector. And so we also contacted those 3 because some of them also buy fruits from their members, and one also decided to participate in our service. So overall, there are 2 producer organizations from the fruit sector and 1 from the vegetable sector.
Thank you. Any other question? It seems that there is no other question.
Oh, there I can see that there is also another question. If I think that the rest 36% of farmers don't perceive the UTP in their activity. Well, from our research, 20% of farmers who participated sell their fruit production only to final consumers. So in these relationships, they actually don't have the opportunity to encounter unfair trading practices. And the rest, 16% of farmers who trade with some other buyers, they replied that they didn't encounter this problem.
Okay, thank you. So there is no other question, and we can move to the next presentation. And it is a presentation by Lubica Bartová, Lucia Janovičová, and Tomáš Chomiak. Speaker is Lucia Janovičová. And let me switch to Lucia. Lucia, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Make a presenter, so floor is yours. So you can open your file and start your presentation.
Yes, 1 minute, please. Could you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Let me to present our joint work with Professor Baráthová and Engineer Chomiak, done under the support of VEGA grant on estimation of effect of Slovak farm membership in agricultural producers organization. Common policy recognizes the importance of agricultural policy organization in strengthening the position of farmers in food supply chain. The European financial support to establish agricultural producer organization has been provided for a long time through national rural development programs in order to enhance farms' competitiveness, increase rural development, and value added. There are many research studies devoted mainly to factors of establishment and functioning of APO, and some investigated effects of the European policy supporting the APO. Among these studies, a group of counterfactual methods has been applied in order to eliminate the self-selection and selection bias, since the membership in the APO is voluntary. The aim of our research was to estimate the net effects of the Slovak farm membership in new establishment producer organization supported under 2007 to 2013. We assume positive net effects of membership on selected indicators. we also assumed that farm technical efficiency had a significant effect on farm membership in the new establishment of producers organization. We constructed a panel data of 562 farms with 486 indicators of the over 2006 to 2015 farm members of the agricultural producers organization in the panel were members of the new establishment APO. To estimate net effects of the producers organization membership, we applied a propensity score matching, difference in difference approach. To create a control groups of farm, we used 6 variables as covariates. The best matching method was selected among 3 matching methods with various parameters based on 4 selection criteria. Then the net effect of the producers organization membership on selected 6 target indicators was calculated using this approach based on estimated average treatment effect on treated. We used data and model by Lowen and Cianici PS-MEX2. Out of farms in our sample, as well as among the farm members of the PO, most farms were specialized in livestock production. For the construction of the control group farms, when we assume that the farm technical efficiency affected farm decision on the producers organization membership, the best matching method was radius caliper 0.009. Propensity score was generated with a login model. Only 4 APO members from the panel were eliminated from the common support. There were no firms with similar characteristics among the non-members of the APO. Secondly, when we execute the technical efficiency from covariates, the best matching method for the construction of the control group of farms, the selected radius caliper 0.008. Propensity score was generated with a login model again, and only 4 members were excluded. The figure to the left side shows a standard bias of explanatory variables before and after matching. The figure on the right side shows the common support. Members are red and non-members are blue, and 4 farmers excluded are green. In case we assume that treatment effect affected the farm decision on producers organizations membership, we found positive but insignificant net effect of the farm membership in the supported producers organization on the average revenue from crop and livestock production, value added per worker, labor productivity represented by value added per annual working units, and revenue per annual working unit. When we estimated net effect of membership on target indicators, including technical efficiency, we found positive but still insignificant net effects on average revenue from crops and livestock production, technical efficiency, revenue per annual working unit, and employment. The membership in producers organization had negative but still insignificant net effects on value added and value added per annual working units. The results of studies on the effects of APO and the effect of policies of supporting them differ. Our findings confirm that the target of the Slovak Rural Development Program, increase significantly value-added, has not been reached. However, the farm producers organization membership contributed to improvement of other target indicators. Applied method of counterfactual analysis has many pros and cons in estimation of policy net effects. In further research, we would like to estimate the using alternative methods of matching methods, target variable or covariates. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Lucia, for your presentation. So now let me check if there are any questions in chat window. There are no questions, so let me ask question if there is any question to the team of this presentation. Miroslava Rajčániová, please, you can ask the question.
Hello, I would like to ask what are the policy implications? Who is the potential user of these results?
I think the potential users of the results can be policy of states, and it's important to further policy.
Mm-hmm. So what should the policymakers do?
May I contribute?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so indeed, these results are designed for or could be delivered to policymakers in order to better design future policy and redesign existing ongoing policies. In such a way that targets will be reached, or at least will be set up such targets that can be reached.
Or is it maybe also for farmers who are making decision whether to join producer organization or not?
Probably not, because they have very individual conditions, different conditions, and the results show on average. So probably these results would discourage them to join producers organization.
Yeah,
but the problem is that the policy should be set in such way that these goals, these targets can be reached, or at least APO will do the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for question.
Question.
Any other question? Let me inform that Lucia Janovičová is 5th grade student of the study program Quantitative Methods in Economics. So
she is not even PhD student?
We should appreciate that we have here also just graduate student, not PhD student in our
But that is great.
Session.
So I would like to convince her to apply for PhD study at the Department of Economic Policy in that case.
If you double the stipend.
We'll
Thank you,
be very
Mirka.
happy if she stays either in the statistics or economic policy. I think she's a good student and she has huge potential for PhD and for our project as well, and for our project. So please, Lucia, think about it.
Yes, so from September she can start at our APVV project.
Yes.
Agreed.
Well, colleagues.
Lucia,
No,
there are
Lucia,
three voices.
This
Thank
is a
you very
call
much,
for.
but I'm very nervous. Sorry. But thank you very much.
This is an invitation for cooperation, huh? Not just.
Unfortunately, she has different goals.
Oh dear.
Okay, so let me conclude this presentation and we can move to the next presentation. Let me show you the, it has been closed already. The next presentation is by Yevhen Kononets, and it is, there are two authors, Yevhen Kononets and Miroslava Rajčániová, Conditions for Improving the Position of Small-Scale Food Producers in Food Supply. The presentation has been already pre-recorded. So now let me try to open the video.
Hello, dear members of the committee. Hello, dear members of the Committee, International Scientific Days 2020. Today, I would like to present you a paper which is called Conditions for Improving the Position of Small-Scale Food Producers in the Food Supply System. The authors of the article are Yevhen Kononets and Miroslava Rajčániová. Before I start, I would like to introduce some key terminology of the paper. Food supply chain, a system of people and activities who are involved in moving any food from a primary producer to a consumer. Small middle-sized enterprise, SME, according to European legislation, has not more than 250 people employed and simultaneously they have a year turnover not more than 50 million euros. But when we usually say about SME, we of course imply micro enterprise or single food farmer or farmer's family who works on the field. They have usually not more than 10 people employed and annual turnover not more than 2 million euros per year. Unfair trading practices are practices that deviate from good commercial conduct and are contrary to good faith and fair dealing. What are the unfair trading practices? So, the most meaningful and significant research which was held by European Commission in 2017 during 3 months from August to November, when were attracted 1,432 respondents across the European countries. The main question which was in this questionnaire that how do you think, what is the most impacting unfair trading practices according to your opinion? So by other words, please insert or set 3 practices from those listed in the questionnaire which according to your opinion is most powerful and impacting in your daily activities. So the next picture depicts results of the survey, we can see that first place took unilateral and retroactive changes to contracts concerning volume, standards, and prices. Appropriately, the next two more powerful practices. This is last-minute order cancellations and payment periods longer than 30 days for perishable products. Totally, there are 18 of these practices. According to recent research of my work, I combined all these practices in 12 types, most common types of unfair trade practices. For example, I combined number 3 and number 4 practice in this table into the one. Similarly, I've done with 2 or 3 quite similar practices, for example, imposing additional costs or payments for a food supplier as a listed fees or as a hello money, or to present to provide favorable place on the shelter on the store. So all these are combined in one. So now we have 12 the most common unfair trading practices. Where UTP is concentrated, according to this first picture, we can see that UTP is usually concentrated around the farmer. According to the next picture, we see that bargaining power focuses on a very thin spot of market dissemination. And this specific case, this is retail. Usually it happens and occurs around retailing because farmers are a lot, consumers are even more, but retailers quite a few amount of this swag here in this place. So that's why bargaining power focuses usually in retailing. Some basic statistics says us that from 90 to 96% of respondents all over the Europe, and based on several absolutely different research, we see that at least one unfair trading practices all farmers and all SME who works on food supply chain face or experience at least one unfair trade practices. So interesting to note, it's wonder that only 12 of them agreed or partially agreed that UTP existed in the food supply chain, because usually it's implemented towards weaker part, such as farmers or any food producers. The main objective of the work is determination of possible conditions for improving the position of small-scale food producers in the food supply system. This main aim we can split on 3 sub-aims: identification of UTP in real farming activity, identification of the possible reasons of such specific practice, and assuming preliminary conditions for better functioning of small food producers and food supply system. For that, we have decided to make 3 separate interviews, deep interviews, and present them in 3 case studies, 3 different food sectors: honey, livestock, and bio-cereals, and 3 different countries: Slovakia, Ukraine, and Austria. So now we can see on the table short information about these 3 farmers with their own operating land, which is quite different. You can see from 80 square meters to 900 hectares. Different volume of production per year. Different collected experience and even number of employees. So in case of Austria, we can see 1.5 employees. It means one permanent worker and one part-time worker. It's done official, formally. Also, we can provide by 2 pictures as photo artifacts from each farmer, which was surveyed by me in the beginning of this year. As a result, honey production in Ukraine faced 2 types of unfair practices, U8 and U9. Retail stores, U8 retail stores imposes to have a technical and documental requirements. Delayed results of laboratory tests, so distortion results by dependent laboratory. Livestock in Slovakia experience 2 types also, U3, payment period longer than 30 days, and U7, requirement the weaker party to pay claims for waste products. In case of Austria, they experienced rarely U1 type. It manifested in form of hard talking negotiations after already pre-agreed terms, prices, prior decision, prior actions of seeding, germination, and cultivation and harvesting. Identification of the possible reasons. So the main reason of all of that is, of course, no written forms of contract. The farmers are not inclined to communicate through digital forms of communication. Also, ordinary farmers are usually anxious to provide information about their contract to or even products. So they're close enough to share with this commercial information to anyone, and close enough to open to go with new contracts, with new people and new experiences. Farmers also inclined to prefer criteria such as security, guarantees, stability, sustainability, instead of profitableness of the product, quality of the production, or how much they can earn selling their production. So as a result, we can say that we can propose or assume some preliminary conditions which, according to our opinion, can significantly reduce or even eliminate such issue in the future. First, certification production of farms, parameterization of product, and smart contract operation. All of these in combination or in combinations would effectively solve the issue. So all these approaches we can discuss in future scientific platforms. Thanks you for your attention, and hope we will see you again soon. Please be safe and be healthy. Goodbye.
So that was pre-recorded video from Yevgeny Kononets. Let me check if Yevgeny is with us.
Yes,
Do you
yes,
hear me?
I'm here.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, so we can open discussion to the topic you presented in your video. Is there any question? I have a question. You did your cases on 3 different farms with different production orientation, and the comparison of the 3 countries, they might be biased, I think. So wasn't it possible to select same types of farms in the 3 countries?
Of course, it could be possible, but we preliminarily set such aims to choose exactly different farms in different sectors in order to exclude some specific features of different industries and different product markets. That's why we have decided to do as we have done.
Mm-hmm. I understand it is difficult to do a survey on farms, and you have depicted it in your presentation. But my impression is that it would be more correct to compare the same type of farms and the practices, unfair practices.
Okay. It would be a good reason if we set such aims in order to count or calculate some statistics. In this case, we have to apply quantitative measures and metrics. But exactly in this case, we wanted to just to analyze reasons, to see some identification of such practices, and preliminarily decide what we can do with it in order to solve this issue in future. So in this specific case, I think that was a good idea to separate and to distinguish, to use different product markets.
Okay, thank you. Any other question, please? It seems there is not another question, so we can move to the very last contribution by two authors, Lubica Bartová, Peter Fandel, and I have already switched the right to Lubica Bartová to be a presenter. So, Lubica, it is your floor. You can open your file.
Thank you very much. Just a minute. Okay. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, so hello everybody. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for opportunity to present our joint contribution, and we will jointly present these results which were conducted. The research was conducted under support of VEGA, Slovak Scientific Agency, and was focused on estimation of effects of farm membership in the agricultural producers organizations. So this is another piece of the research which was already presented by Lucia Janovičová. And as was already said, the agricultural producers organizations plays a very important role in food supply chain, and there is growing studies around the world on functioning, size, efficiency, but especially agricultural producers organizations as such. A less number of studies are devoted to effects of this membership on their members. And there is a gap in literature on effects of this membership on farm performance, particularly efficiency and productivity. Therefore, the objective of our study was to assess the effects of farm membership in the agricultural producers organizations on farm performance, technical efficiency in 2014 in Slovakia, and we were interested especially on the effects on members of a newly established APO, which benefited from a rural development program support of a programming period 2007-2013. We distinguish three groups of agricultural producers by their APO membership, non-members over all programming period, then permanent members. These were members even before the RDP, and new members, we call them new members, but they became APO members over these 2007-2013 programming period, and benefited from financial support of this newly established APO. It should be noted that there was only one RDP call for project submission for those newly established APO in 2008, and selected eligible APO receive financial transfers over the next 5 years. Thus, we estimated farm performance when this support was over in 2014. However, we assume that the best performance reached farms permanent members of the APO. We used cross-sectional data of 645 agricultural producers. Out of these, 45% were members of newly established APO, and among those new members, crop farms dominated, while among permanent members dominated livestock-oriented farms. I forgot to mention that we divided all farms also by their production specialization to crop, livestock specialized farms, and farms with diversified production. We call them mixed. There were large farms in our sample with average acreage of utilized agricultural area around 1,300 hectares, and even more average hectares had new members, around 1,600 hectares. Peter? Počujeme sa?
Pani profesorka, ja vás počujem, neviem ako ostatní.
No, pán docent Fandel ma asi nepočuje.
Ľubica, ja ťa tiež veľmi dobre počujem.
Okay.
No fajn.
Do you hear me?
Všetci ťa počujeme.
Do you hear me?
Ah.
Hello?
So may I continue with your presentation?
Do you hear me?
Áno, ja ťa počujem, ale pokračuj. Môžem zapnúť prezentáciu?
I need your presentation. Did you hear me before?
Nie.
Okay, so I need to repeat it. So standard analysis of the impact of membership is usually done in such a way that a sample of farms is on a sample of farms. Standard analysis of technical efficiency is run. Then measures are distributed into 3 groups according to membership, and then a statistical test is done whether there are some differences between distributions, technical efficiency distributions of those 3 groups. But technical efficiencies estimated this way are contaminated by three types of inefficiency. First, it is managerial inefficiency. Second, it is scale inefficiency. And then also inefficiency due to impact of different types of membership. So to measure net effect of membership of producers organization, first we eliminated managerial and scale inefficiency. Lubica, could you present the next? Okay, so we applied a meta-frontier approach proposed by Chance et al. In 1991. And in the first stage, within groups, within membership groups of farms, separate analysis of efficiency is run. Then all farms are projected to the frontier. It means that managerial and scale inefficiency is eliminated. And then we get new metadata. And on the metadata, for all groups, we run again an estimation of technical efficiency. And those measures or inefficiency, inefficiency, expressed the net effect of membership in the groups. Lubica, you can continue.
Môžeš pokračovať.
Môžeš pokračovať. We can skip those formulas.
Okay.
So, you can go to the results.
Okay, probably we should say that we use input variables and okay, results. Then the results of estimated group-specific technical efficiency, as you saw on the figure, with respect to particular APO membership for each production specialization shows that highest average technical efficiency reached permanent APO members. These farms created quite homogeneous groups and there was quite high competition within them. However, when we estimated meta technical efficiency, it means towards the common APO meta frontier. Thus, we eliminated all sources of inefficiencies, e.g., as was said, managerial or scale inefficiency. We found that the highest technical efficiency reached crop and livestock specialized farms, new APO members, and non-members of diversified farms. In addition to estimation effects of membership on farm performance, we also assessed the persistence of farm membership in newly established APO. In 2014, when the support of the newly established APO was over, and we found that more than 60% of new members left APO in 2014, and this indicated opportunistic behavior. So, to conclude our results, we found that the APO permanent members created quite homogeneous groups. They inefficiently use of current technology and permanent membership did not bring them expected effects. Members of newly established APO, those who received financial support, especially those livestock and crop specialized farms, benefited from the membership the most. They reached best performance, and those were mostly large crop specialized farms. However, more than 60% of all new APO members left this APO when support was over. Such opportunistic behavior was already observed in other countries and regions, for example, in China, Switzerland, Ecuador. Our findings could contribute to studies on effects of producers' organization membership and support of these new producers' organizations. And of course, as was already said in the previous presentation, they could be offered and used by policy makers to redesign the APO policy support in such a way that they will maintain, they will try to maintain functioning of the APO in such a way that farms could benefit from the advantages. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Lubica. And let me open discussion. Are there any questions? In chat window, I do not see any question.
I can see only comments. I can see only comments how it's fine to see a conference from living room.
And also,
we have our guest Rastja Kotulic from Prešov, so that's why we want
yes,
welcome him, and also MRO that Dusan Drabi couldn't join, but he says hello, unfortunately.
Thank you. Okay, so it was the last presentation. To conclude our session, it was, I'm sure it was a new experience for everyone of us, especially for me. Sorry for misconduct of some parts of this conference, of this session. It is difficult to learn in such short time all possible ways to manage team conference, and excuse me for my mistakes. I would like to ask Lubica to present her idea as far as possible publication in our journal, since the journal is also supervised by our association as well as by the faculty. So it would be nice if you call, Lubica, if you call for papers to the journal. Would you?
Thank you very much for giving me opportunity to invite all presenters, all these publications for possibility to publish them in our journal. I would like to attract you since we, in January this year, we applied for inclusion to Scopus database, and as I saw today, they are on the last step of the decision whether they will include us or not. So I hope I hope to wait for positive decision, and this will be a great opportunity for all presenters to have a paper in Scopus Index journal. So may I ask those who are online, who are interested in, can you express your willingness right now? Willingness to publish in our journal? I can see one. Evgeny, okay. Thank you very much. So please, okay, Emmanuel, please send me your contributions, and then I will communicate with you immediately in order to finalize for publication all these contributions as soon as possible. Okay, and I can see also our guest from Poland. I hope that this is willingness to contribute to our journal. Okay. Okay, so email is can you see?
Yes. Thanks.
So we can publish these contributions very soon after the review process, but we will speed up this review. Thank you very much for opportunity.
Thank you, Lubica.
May I last word? Peter, I would like to thank you for moderating this section. It's not easy, as you said, it's the first time. I had my own problems with the presentation as well, but it was very good. The discussions were very good. I enjoyed as usual. It's very important because it's also the section of Association of Agriculture Economists of Slovakia. So I would like to thank Lubica also for organizing the session as well. Both of you, very good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Artan. And please feel free to say anything at the end of this session. It doesn't need to relate to this session. We can open free discussion. How do you work at home? And how do you see that situation? Is it demanding or not? Is it easier or is it more difficult to work from home? So let me ask you to share your ideas about the current situation. I hope that no coronavirus has been transferred via internet networks, I'm sure. And so we can discuss in English or in Slovak if you wish. Or if you are in hurry to have lunch, we can close our session. Any voice from you?
Yes, I would like to ask, now is the lunch time, so when do they deliver the lunch?
Who? Our session
organizers. The organizers, I hope.
Moderator.
Virtual lunch, you mean?
Normally at MVD, at the International Scientific Days, every time there was a lunch organized, so I'm expecting to ring my bell and nothing happening yet.
So at this time, I can only open a picture of menu at some restaurant and share it with you. And I have noticed that Barbara Kielbasa from Poland. Do you hear us? Can you say anything, Barbara? No, she is.
She's already outside. Probably.
I have noticed.
Or might be without sound. Might be without sound.
Maybe. She's still on hold, so maybe she's outside. Okay. Okay, so let me thank you very much. Let me thank all participants, active participants, and also let me thanks to attendees, passive attendees. Once again, it was a great and new experience to organize a session this way. I have learned a lot, and my feeling is that remote teaching and online conferences, it is a future. I have noticed recently I visited a web page of Oxford University, and I have noticed that they are organizing teaching remote way already 5 years, and I studied also the plans for future. So they plan to move to virtual space more extensively, and probably it will be a future for all higher education institutions to educate people remotely. So once again, thank you very much, and see you next time at the similar opportunity as it was today. Bye-bye.
See you. Thanks again. Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.